Aloha, it's Robert with Blue Planet Surf. It's been kind of a crazy week, but it's been windy. And one of the upsides of having a mandated shutdown is that I had more time to get on the water. And today's video is kind of a beginner tutorial. Just a bunch of footage from this week. We've had a lot of wind. And Derek Hamasaki, some of the footage is from him in the water, shooting from his phone. And Derek's on the left here. He's been taking out his buddies by the airport, lagoon, which is a great spot for learning. So the guys that are kind of new to wing foiling, just getting into it without a wing or a windsurfing background or kite surfing, if you don't have a wind sport background, there's some things that you kind of have to figure out before you can really get into wing foiling. So this is a great spot because it's kind of smooth water in the beginning. It's kind of sheltered, so it's not as rough as being out in the open ocean. And they're doing downwinders, so that way you don't have to worry about staying upwind. So in the beginning, that's kind of one of the hard parts, is to staying upwind. So we end up just going down this lagoon where the water's pretty smooth and protected, and then finish on the other end and then take a car back to the beginning. So here's Daniel. He's really new to it, and he really got it figured out just recently. He's getting the jibes down. He's up flying regularly. So Daniel's doing really well. And this is Derek. Derek's definitely really good at it. Derek's a really good foiler, so it kind of came natural to him, even though he has no windsurfing background or no wing background or kiting. He figured out wing foiling really quickly. So here's Daniel. Daniel's got the jibes down, everything, so really good. So one of the advantages of going in calmer, smoother water is that you just don't have to worry about all the chop and waves coming from all directions, which makes it a lot harder just to get up on your board and balance and get up on the foil. So going in a kind of more protected waterway is a good idea. At the beginning of this run, the entry and the exit are both on rocky shoreline. So it's a good idea to bring booties or slippers that you can tie onto your leash or something. And at the very beginning of the run, there's this submerged barge that's marked with a propane tank. So if you do end up doing this run, you got to look out for that. I guess a bunch of guys have hit it already, but you can kind of see it. It's just a shallow thing in the water, and if you get too close, you'll bang into it with your foil. So here's Daniel again. The windsock at the airport, you can see it's like straight out. So it's definitely a windy day. The guys were mostly on 4-meter wings. Some of the guys had 5 meters. So one thing I find is in terms of wing size is to always use like the smallest wing size you can use. That'll still get you up on the foil. So here you can kind of see one of the typical beginner things to do is just to go almost straight downwind. And it's really hard to catch enough wind if you're going with the wind, because it kind of, as you're going downwind, the pressure decreases in your wing. And then that makes it harder to get enough pressure to get it going. So really what you want to do is angle your board more like kind of at a 90-degree angle almost to the wind, or just heading slightly downwind. That way you can build up more pressure in the wing, and then hold it so that it pulls you kind of sideways. You want to have it pull you forward, and it's really hard to get enough speed going if your board is pointing straight downwind. So try to angle the board a little bit more and have the wing, instead of just having the wing pulling you up, you want to have it pulling you kind of sideways and sideways to the wind. Derek has this cool technique of when he jibes, shifting the hands after he jibes. So he jibes and holds onto the wing kind of twist it, and then let's go after he's already speeding in the opposite direction. Here's Daniel again, going upwind and kind of pumping to go upwind, which is kind of an interesting technique. But Daniel's doing really well. It's amazing how much he progressed in just a few days, like this week. So, and that's another thing, another tip is, like, if you want to improve, it's really good to go out, several days in a row. You can only do so much in a day. You get tired after an hour or two. It's pretty much all you can handle in a day. But if you then go again the next day and the next day and the next day, so luckily we've had like a whole week of really good wins. That'll really help you improve quickly if you go out regularly, day after day after day. And right now with the coronavirus crisis, it's probably a good time for a lot of us that got some free time. Here in Hawaii, non-essential businesses are closed. And your social distancing, you have to practice social distancing, but you are allowed to exercise. So getting out on the water is allowed, and as long as you don't linger in the beach parks and you practice social distancing, there's nothing to stop you from getting out on the water, and definitely staying healthy and staying in shape is a good idea. So here's Daniel again. Yeah, and then this is kind of at the end of the run where we come back in. So like I said, doing a downwinder is definitely good when you're starting out. Because basically when you start, you end up always going downwind more, and it's hard to stay upwind in the beginning. So that can be pretty tricky, staying upwind. So it's a good idea to find a run if you're starting out where you can kind of go downwind and practice, and don't worry about having to walk back upwind again. So leaving a car at one end and just letting yourself drift downwind if you need to is a good way to get started and practice. So yeah, and Derek's been really good about giving pointers to his buddies that are just learning, and I said earlier to use the smallest wing you can use while still getting up on the foil. So because once you get a little bit of speed going and you get up on the foil, you're almost always overpowered by the wind. Because basically once you start moving with the foil, it has a little drag, so you get a pretty good amount of speed, and then the relative wind is actually stronger than the actual wind. So if you have too much wing size, it's easy to actually get overpowered once you're up on the foil. It does make it easier to get up on the foil with a bigger wing, but just having the proper technique, you can actually get going without having too much wing size. Here's Derek. So at the end, there's already some pretty good wind swell. He's just like carving some turns on the wing swell, doing his jibe again where he switches his hands after turning. So Derek's pretty amazing. He's actually, yesterday we were out at Kahala and he was filming with his phone while he's riding on the wave. So I don't know how he does that, but pretty impressive. So here's the airport in the background. Derek doing another one of his jibes. So when the wind's steady, that really helps. If the wind's kind of gusty, sometimes you have to pump in between and then to keep it going, so that can be kind of tricky. But here you can see at the end, it's kind of a rocky shoreline. Here's some raptors taking off, roaring into the sky. Being right next to the airport, you definitely hear that happening. But this is a great spot. I was filming this from the shore. They did their first run early, and then after that I joined them on the second run when they went out a second time. So they left some cars at the end to shuttle everything back up again, and then they went on the second run, and I joined them on that second run. So got a little bit more footage of that second run from Derek's cell phone. So here's the shoreline coming in. Definitely a little bit rough at the exit and a little bit tricky to get out. Good to help each other with the wings and so on. This is Derek's board. He has a Jimmy Lewis 4.4, tiny little board, but that's like having a board, a stand-up paddle board that just barely floats you is good to use when you're wing foiling. It just makes it easier. I know some people are using tiny boards that kind of sink when you stand on them. But you know, on Oahu, a lot of times the wind is not that steady. So if there's no wind or the wind gets light, nice to have a board that still floats you and you can get started a little bit easier. So a small stand-up foil board works really well for wing foiling. So here's a little thing of what not to do. This was the beginning of the second run, and Daniel's wing, the ozone leash came off his wrist. It's kind of, the Velcro kind of comes off easily and started blowing down when Derek's running after it. And luckily the wing kind of got stuck in the water and Daniel was able to catch up to it. But it's something you want to make sure that you definitely secure that wing properly on your wrist. The leash needs to be on there tight, because luckily the wing got stuck, but if it just starts tumbling, the wind's strong, it can be really hard to catch. So that's one kind of cautionary tale here. Always make sure you secure your wing properly. That's Jeff Chang with the pink F1 sail, and then I am on the right there with the yellow duotone, yellow and white. So this is the second run. The guys had already been out on their first run, and then Jeff and I joined on the second run, and Derek's filming us on his phone at the beginning here. So at the very start, the wind is a little bit lighter, so I had to kind of pump a little bit to get up on the foil, but once there's a little gust, it was windy enough. And then once you head out there, you got to look out for that submerged barge. So don't go too far, and keep an eye out for that propane tank in the water that marks that submerged barge. So yeah, anyways, at the beginning the run is a little bit sheltered, so the wind is not as strong in the beginning, and it kind of gets stronger as you go. But there were some good gusts. Here's Jeff putting the front foot on, back foot, and I'm doing a little tack going upwind. So going upwind, turning the board upwind is a little bit trickier than going with the wind and a jibe. But I'm getting pretty good at tacking in one direction anyways. I'm not that good at doing it the other way. So yeah, here's Jeff launching, Daniel flying on this yellow ozone wing, doing really well. And here's Jeff getting up on foil. And yeah, let's see. So thanks a lot, Derek, for getting all this footage. I think watching yourself on video is really a good way to improve and to learn and figure out what you can do differently or do better. So video, I find, is really helpful. So whenever you can get friends filming you, that's really good feedback. Oh, I think that's where where Jeff banged into the barge. So that's where that submerged barge is. Don't go there. Yeah, so this was a really fun day. The being on flat water makes it easy to practice your tricks and so on too. Being in the waves, I think, is definitely more challenging and more interesting, but sometimes just having smooth flat water just makes it a lot easier to also try things that you wouldn't usually feel comfortable trying in rough conditions. And then getting back on and getting your kite launched or the wing launched and getting back up is definitely easier if the water's smooth and calm. So here I'm trying another tack. The tricky part of when you're tacking is kind of keeping your speed through the wind and not slowing down too much from, since you turn to the wind through the wind, you have to kind of turn quickly and then get the wing powering you the other way before you slow down too much. I still haven't really figured out how to switch my stance, so I'm still riding the same stance both directions, which works for me. I don't, but Jeff's getting really good at switching stance and riding switch stance or switching his stance going back and forth, which I think makes it easier to go upwind on the tack where you're where I'm twisted. It's a little bit harder going upwind when you're all twisted up. But when you're riding a smaller board and a smaller foil like I am, I guess it's definitely tricky to learn to ride it the other way. It's like learning how to foil all over again with your other foot forward. So I've tried it a bunch, but I still haven't really done it much. So I think I have to go back to using a big board and a big foil to just practice riding with my other foot forward, using a kind of a stable board and a stable wing, foil wing. That should make it easier to learn how to ride switch stance, and something I need to work on. But actually I don't really feel the need to do it that much, and especially if you're using foot straps and you're it's actually nice to just have your feet attached to the board and not have to switch around. I have been using my board without foot straps quite a bit. I just recently put a front foot strap back on, but using a board without straps is actually a really good way to do it too. I'm using a 5.2 Blue Planet Carver foil board. It has 98 liters. I weigh 195 pounds. So in the beginning, that 5.2 felt a little bit small and quirky to launch on. But once you're up and flying, it's really good. And now I'm used to it, and that's really the only board I'm using anymore. It's plenty floaty for me, and I figured out how to balance it out when I'm getting started. So here's another little footage from yesterday at Kahala. We got some more drone footage coming from foiling in the waves. And we're gonna go out today again, doing a downwinder. We can try to get some more footage today, and that's coming soon. So thanks for watching this long video. Hopefully you'll get something out of it. And thanks again, Derek, for shooting from the water. Always good to see what you're doing. This is at Kahala. It's a super fun spot. This is what you don't want to do. Note how my foil almost hits the wing and cuts a big hole in it. Luckily it didn't. But anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Be safe. Don't get sick. Stay healthy. Aloha. Take care.